Welcome back. Today is part 2 of our series of becoming your own expert. If you did your homework last week, you probably learned all sorts of fun things about yourself and about the thoughts you have around eating. And I want to remind you that you're not alone, and a lot of the thoughts and feelings you probably wrote down, a lot of other people are having the same exact experiences. You know, even today as I sit here, I've been working on this for a few years now. I still have thoughts that come up. And it's okay. This is a practice that over time will get easier, and you will start learning new ways to feel around food and new beliefs about food. So now that you've identified some of your thoughts and feelings around eating, there's things you can do about it. You can start to develop your own counter thoughts. You can explore different things to remind yourself when those thoughts creep up so that you can move forward. It could be a mantra. It could be something you have written in your phone to remind yourself, or you have it on your desk. Something to just bring yourself back and out of those thoughts. I also want you to know that if this is really hard, and if you've recognized some thoughts that might be more disordered or harmful, really seek help from a professional like a counselor or your doctor to talk about this. Again, it's really common and you're not alone, and you can get help and you can move through this. So today I want to talk about the second question we reviewed last week, which is, do I eat for reasons other than hunger? This is a really big topic, and of all the questions we've gone through, there are so many layers to this one that we're going to work through today a little bit. So think about all the roles that food plays in our lives. We use food for celebrations. We use food for events and for comfort and for procrastinating and for soothing. These are all really unique to each person, but really common amongst all of us. And so we're going to talk about some, what I like to call eating triggers. So things that make us want to eat when our body doesn't feel physically hungry. And there's a list of these things. Before we get started though, I want to take some time to breathe. Again, anytime you are eating or even thinking about eating, it's really important just to ground yourself and to just take a few moments to relax your body before you go further. So find your seat. It could be in a chair, it could be on the floor, in your bed, wherever you are that you can comfortably sit. Put your feet on the ground, and you can rest your hands on your knees or in your lap somewhere, and take just a few deep breaths. You can close your eyes. You can keep them open and gaze softly at the floor, whatever you feel comfortable with. And now take a deeper breath in, filling your lungs completely. And exhale it all out. One more deep breath in. And empty. Gently open your eyes when you're ready. And now we'll get into the work. Some common eating triggers people have. We all have. Number 1, seeing food. Think about when you are not hungry, but you're watching TV and you see a commercial come up for pizza. And all of a sudden, you could eat a pizza. You feel hungry. You feel, I really want to eat that right now. That is one way we become hungry without being physically hungry, through sight. The next one, number 2, is hearing food. So think about a time somebody sits next to you and is eating out of a bag of chips, or you can hear somebody eating or cooking. That can be another cue to your brain that says, oh, maybe I should eat now. Number 3 is smelling food. Walking through a bakery, walking through any eating establishment and smelling what's being prepared can just send you right into wanting to eat. The 4th one is social situations. So a birthday party or a work event or a wedding, something where food is involved and it's a part of the cultural norm to partake in it, even though you might not be hungry. The 6th one is stress. So that time you were at work and you didn't want to make that phone call and you reached for a snack that was in your cabinet, or you just put the kids down for your nap and you're feeling wired and you grab a snack. Those are some examples of stress, but you all probably know those moments of stress when you go to reach for a snack. The last one is procrastination. This is my biggest trigger, is when I want to avoid something, I grab something to eat, because that is way better than doing what I don't want to do. I want you to take a moment to write down some things that you've experienced in the past few days, times that you have eaten out of any of those triggers. And I also want you to think about, what types of foods did you reach for? Were they salty foods? Were they sweet foods? Were they comfort foods? Was it a drink? I want you to really pay attention to that as well. What triggers you've noticed come up in your life and what foods you reach for when those triggers arise. So after reflecting on this, what did you find? What were some common triggers that you noticed in your own life? Was it that you walk home from work and you walk into the kitchen and immediately open the snack cabinet? Or was it you sat down after a long day and you were watching TV and something came on in the TV show or a commercial that made you want to get up and go get some food? Was it an argument with a family member that sent you immediately to the fridge? These are all really, really common scenarios that happen in everybody's lives at one point or another. I would say the stress trigger is a really interesting one because it is used a lot and people use food for soothing. That is just what we do. And we're going to talk today about why that's okay sometimes, but really what I want you to focus on is how often you're using food for things other than hunger. Because when we start using food for all sorts of fixes, especially the stressful and emotional ones, we're not really getting to what's really bothering us. We are consuming in a way that our bodies don't need, and we're also not addressing what it does. And so that's what I want to talk more about today. If you found that when you were reflecting on this, you weren't sure if you had triggers, that's really okay too, because a lot of people don't know when they're physically hungry and when they're emotionally hungry. A lot of times when we go for food, we just think, oh, I must be hungry. And sometimes that is the case, and sometimes it's not. And so we're going to do an exercise next that will help you really tune into, am I eating out of hunger, or is this something else? Okay, so we're going to do what I call a hunger check-in. This is a mini meditation you can do at any time, anywhere. It just takes a few minutes. And so we're going to practice it together, and then I want you to use it throughout the week. So find your comfortable seat again. If you can, have your feet on the floor, hands resting in your lap, and close your eyes and just start breathing normally. Bring attention to the in-breath, noticing it through your nostrils, into your lungs, filling your belly. And you can keep your hands rested in your lap, or if it's helpful, you can also bring your hands to rest on your belly. And notice how the breath fills your abdomen. And as you exhale, it empties. And I want you to think of a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the hungriest you've ever been. 1 being not hungry at all. What level of hunger do you have in this moment right now? What sensations do you notice in your body? It doesn't matter what you've eaten already. Now that you have your number, how do you know? What is your body telling you? Bring your attention back to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. And bring your attention back to the rest of your body. Your feet on the floor. Your seat in the chair. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So, what number did you find? And how do you know? It can be a really hard question to ask yourself and to figure out, but it's possible. The more you practice this, the more you'll learn your body's different levels of hunger. We usually only know the complete opposite sides of the scale. We know when we're not hungry at all, and when we know when we are ready to eat anything and everything in sight. The key to learning your body and learning when to eat and when you're hungry is finding those in-between levels. So finding your 5, finding your 6, and what that feels like. Sometimes for people, it's the moment food comes into thought. Like, oh, okay, I think I feel something. Maybe I should start eating. Some people start getting irritable. Some people might get a headache. You can start to feel grumbling in your stomach. These are all common things that people experience with different levels of hunger. And yours is going to look different because you're unique. And so your task this week is to pay attention to those levels and know your levels and what that feels like in your body. So take one day a week or one meal a week, whatever you feel capable of at this point in your life. And I want you to practice this hunger check-in. You could be anywhere when you do it. You don't necessarily have to close your eyes. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just check in. You can just take a few breaths, place your hands on your stomach, and just ask yourself, how hungry am I? Am I hungry at all? And think about that scale from 1 to 10 and just make a note of it. And the more you make note of those levels, the more you'll be able to choose when and how much to eat. And that's really important information for you. So it can be really hard to remember to do this. So do yourself a favor, make it easy, set an alarm, write it on a sticky note. Make some way to remind yourself to do this at least once this week. If you feel ambitious, try it once a day, or choose one day and do it every meal. But make a reminder because it's really easy to forget, especially if you're busy and you're not making time to sit down and eat. It can be just something that goes out of your mind when you're eating. The next thing I want you to think about is when you find that those eating triggers come up and you check in with your hunger level. If you realize you're not really physically hungry, your body's not sending you those cues, I want you to pay attention to what is going on. Maybe that's when you realize, oh, this is a trigger. This is because I saw something on TV, or because this is my habit, because when I come home from work, I always have a snack. I want you to make note of that. So when you're doing this exercise and you find that you're not physically hungry, you do the check-in and you say, okay, I'm at like a 1 or a 2, but yet you were about to reach for a snack. I want you then to figure out what's going on. Is this a trigger of yours? Is it an emotion? Is it something you saw on TV? Is it procrastination? Is it because your partner is eating? Make note of it. And then you have 2 options. 1, you eat anyway. 2, you do something that addresses what else is causing you to reach for food. This is more in the case if it's an emotion or procrastination. For example, if you realize that when you do your check-in, you're not hungry, but you want to eat, instead you go for a walk, or you stretch, or you call a friend if you're feeling sad or lonely. Reach out to somebody. You can reach for that food, but that food is only going to comfort you for a few seconds, if that. What's more nourishing is getting to the root of what's going on. So make a list for yourself. Things that you can do other than eating when you have that option. It could be making a cup of tea. It could be listening to music. It could be taking a break and walking outside. Breathing exercises, stretching. All of these things are great strategies to use to really meet your needs instead of always using food as that comforting tool. I want you to also know it's okay to use food to comfort yourself. Remember, it's about what you're doing all the time and every day. That's important, not what you're doing sometimes. And so this week, I want you to pay attention to your triggers and do the hunger check-in at least once, if not more, and take notes. Be curious, no judgment. There's no right or wrong answers. This is just about learning you and your habits.